The following program is a fan-made review and reaction show. It is in no way affiliated with the movie trivia Schmoedown or Skybound Entertainment.
Welcome back, everybody, to the third episode of the Ultimate Schmoedown Show. I'll be your host today. My name is Bogz. With me are my fellow co-hosts Colin and John. Before we go to them, I just want a quick shout out to some of the producers behind the show today. If anyone's familiar with the Outlaw Nation, they are obviously Sean and Mike. Also shout out to some of the people that designed the graphics that you see on screen and on the intro, which are Jake and Bryan, and also, of course, a big shout out to the executive producer of the show, the Outlaw himself, Mr. John Rocha. So, by the way, if you'd have told me a couple of months ago that I'd be hosting a Schmoedown show on the Outlaw Nation and getting personal shout outs by the Outlaw himself, I mean, it's very, very surreal, this whole thing is. So, anyway, it's enough about me. Quick catch up with the boys. Colin, how you doing? How you been all week?
I celebrated another year. I had my 26th birthday. I was weird in quarantine.
Happy birthday.
We watched, I always like going to the movies. You know, I had a summer birthday. So, most of the time I'm going to the movies and stuff like that. And we tried to keep up. We were going to watch Interstellar, movie I'd seen before, but we ended up going with The Gentleman. Okay. What a great time. That movie was so much fun. I mean, I've always felt like I would fit in as the one American in a group full of guys from London. So, I mean, Matthew McConaughey really spoke to me in that movie. So I had a great time. Overall, the birthday was great. Instead of cake, we did get a little bit of cake, but we get these fancy donuts delivered. So had those fancy donuts delivered, had some bacon on the glazed donut, getting fancy with it. That's my go-to now. So, yeah, overall successful birthday and, just hanging in there, ready to do some Schmoedown.
Of course. And I'm sure you're happy Liverpool has obviously won the league as well.
Look, if we could have just played 2 games and now we can all go home and I'm just ready for Champions League. So everything now is we're just waiting for August.
John's a Man City fan, by the way, everyone is.
I'm a massive Man City fan. John is a massive Liverpool fan. And we personally handed him the Premier League title. And it would have been nice to at least play them for, at least to have a little bit of a little more drama leading up to that matchup in the next couple weeks. But c'est la vie is what it is. But congratulations to Liverpool, because it is the first time for that fan base in a very long time. And it is well-deserved. They were going crazy last night in Liverpool. So be safe out there, Liverpool. Be safe.
Anyway, this ain't a sports show. So, yeah, we'll leave that for now. John, how you doing? By the way, I got loads of feedback about how well your episode was that you hosted. So a lot of feedback from my friends saying they can't wait for your next episode rather than my episode this time. So yeah.
Oh, those sound like bad friends of yours. I want to yell at them on your behalf. I'll specify when Colin and Bogz are talking about John being a fan of whichever team. They are, of course, talking about the Outlaw John Rocha. My soccer expertise begins and ends with the computer game Backyard Soccer. As far as Schmoedown goes, very excited. I was talking with Colin. I got my nice little UA jacket on, which technically counts as an Inner Geekdom movie division. They got 2 movies out, pretty good. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about not only the matches we had this week, but also all of the juicy details about what's to come that we got, Bogz.
Absolutely. So loads to talk about this week. We've had 3 big matches, but there's been loads of news, updates, tournament updates, title updates. We're all going to break it down for you. So whoever isn't aware of what's happened, we'll break it down for you. We'll go through the matches first, and then towards the end of the show, we'll discuss all the updates. So be patient, and you'll get to know everything that's happening. Don't worry, this is the show for you. So we'll root the matches first. So we're going to discuss the Inner Geekdom match first of all, which will be Emily Rose Jacobson against Eric Zipper. After that, we'll discuss the first semi-final Star Wars match, which was Dimalanta against Molly Damon, of course. And then the last match to drop was obviously Paul Oyama against Chance Ellison. So we'll break all of that down. What was your expectations going into this week, John? What were you kind of most looking forward to or most excited about?
I mean, for me, I was most excited about the Chance Ellison versus Paul Oyama rematch. I still think probably their singles matchup might be one of my favorite Schmoedown matches, especially of the kind of like new and updated Schmoedown format that we've seen. I was really excited for that. But, I'm fans of the personalities of Emily and Eric. Obviously, the build up to seeing Molly Damon versus Andrew Dimalanta, considering what we'd seen from them in their previous matches, the hype was there. So, I mean, this was a good week, man. I was excited for all of them, really.
Good. How about you, Colin? What were you looking forward to?
For me, we're kind of getting to the nitty gritty of the Star Wars tournament. And I love when we get some Star Wars questions that smack me in the head. And that we got them this week. And I love it. I love feeling stumped. And I love it when these players are just as stumped. And that's what we got. And Dimalanta and Molly, it didn't disappoint. And the other two matches, I love Inner Geekdom as well. So I love this little sandwich. We get this nice little blend of Inner Geekdom and Star Wars, and it's all geeky. And it's not that I don't love singles and doubles. It's just I feel like I can flex my muscles a little bit more in the Inner Geekdom and Star Wars and play along a little more. So it goes, that adds a little bit more to the excitement. But Bogz, I loved every match this week. Each one had their ups and downs, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, so much to exactly like you said. It's like a sandwich. So, yeah, we'll start with the starter first, which was Emily Rose Jacobson against Eric Zipper in the Inner Geekdom division. So going into, I did really like the promo with Zipper and Kaiser. That was the kind of most extensive promo we've had. The pre-recorded one, them going back and forth. I did find it really funny. So going into round one, quite a low scoring round from one side. So the round actually finished 8-4. So I was a little bit surprised with some of the couple of misses from Emily. I don't know, John, what do you think first round of that match?
First round, I mean, I forget which match it was last week, but I think it might have been one of the matches that Sam Levine was managing, where there is that discussion of folks knowing more about maybe the mixed bag across the board questions or being able to buckle down on a specific category. So when I was kind of watching, that was actually one of the first things I was thinking of, where it was like, all right, we're starting with like the, scatter, kind of like the shotgun approach, seeing which of these competitors are really able to kind of get everything within the Inner Geekdom before we move on to that more specified like sniper technique of who knows what. So, there are definitely questions in that round where I was like, how do you not know Shaq was in Steel? But then there were other questions where I was like, no, like you really only know this if you love the Inner Geekdom stuff. So I was, going into that, even after that first round, I was like, this could still pretty much be anyone's game.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a mixed bag. Some easier ones, some harder ones. What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, and it just seemed like at that point in the match that you either found is watching Eric nail 8 out of 10. I mean, that's finding your ground, that's feeling comfortable. And then for Emily she needed to nail that second round to find some comfortability. And that's what's important about round one. You either find your footing and you're ready to push on to the mat with the rest of the match, or you're on your heels. And it felt like she was on her heels the entire match.
Yeah, and I'd noticed as well, Zipper was quite relaxed the whole way through. Even before the first question was asked, he was bantering with Mark and Christian. I thought, oh, okay, he's quietly confident here. So yeah, I did pick up. He obviously said he was studying, training with Parker and Smets and stuff. But I could tell he's taking it really serious and wants to get some wins and some points. So anyway, going on to round two. Obviously, Emily went first. I found it interesting that she was confident in picking MCU. Didn't really go her way. A couple of misses, a couple of steals from Zipper. Colin, what do you think of round two?
Round two, it's not how you wanted it to go. We love to see it go. To quote the great Hercules, love to go the distance. And, you get that feeling throughout round 2, like, oh, not being comfortable. And that's what happened. It just felt like constantly, every time you felt like there was an opportunity for Emily to grab a hold of the game and to get control of this match, she couldn't grab on. And it just slipped. It slipped right through her fingers. I felt like there were opportunities there to at least put some pressure on Zipper. And it just felt like that pressure was never fully applied. And like you guys mentioned before, he's sitting there and he's spatting back and forth with Christian and Mark. Eric feels that comfortability. He's like, oh, I've been here before. I've been in the studio. I've done this before. And you could tell, and that was showing. And that really came through in round 2 and clearly pushed him on through.
She did have that. Obviously, she's got live event experience. But in terms of studying, I felt that the way he was kind of able to get the steals, I felt he did have that extra level of studying under his belt. So, John, what do you think, round 2?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Like, Zipper very clearly was hungry for this win, especially like considering both his pre-match promo and then also what he was talking about. Like, he has his eyes set on Kalinowski. So it was no surprise to see that he really came to play with this. He studied up on one of his at least perceived weaknesses in the inner geekdom, which was huge as well, because, Emily and Dagnino played that strategically pretty well. Yep. So he just very clearly came hungry with it. With Emily, I think it's always very useful to kind of try and keep everything in perspective. And it's useful to remember that while Emily has been in the game for, I think, roughly a year now, she's still a very relatively new player. Like, she definitely had like her big match, the live match against Alex Damon. But, she also had a match against Alex Damon, one of the best to be like doing it in this specifically like geeky sphere. She also had to go up against Brandon Hanna as I think her second ever Inner Geekdom match, I want to say. But like I think it's interesting, especially considering that not only is she new, but she's also still very new to being under the management of Tom Dagnino. Like, it's still very fresh. I think, I know a lot of people were kind of ragging on her for this performance, but I think it's useful to keep in mind, like, she and Dagnino were talking, they have the strategy down. And I think it's more just about like the fact that she has the knowledge that can now put it maybe better to practice is the thing I'm looking forward to, at least in future matches, Bogz. But certainly in that round 2, Zipper proved he came to play.
Yeah, definitely. So they've done the right decision in terms of tactically, where they've picked his weakness, or just supposed weakness, but obviously clearly his studying came through. But yeah, anyway, moving on to round 3. So the score being 18-9 to Zipper. So she needs to obviously hit all three of her questions. She hit the first one, which is she got another Lord of the Rings question, which she's missed. Obviously the 3-pointer, which is a Star Wars question. Colin, what are your thoughts on round 3?
Well, this is just another layer into a quick cut back to round 2, and the importance, like, we almost didn't even get to round 3, and nailing that last question saved her from getting a KO. And I know a faction right now that would really love those KO points right now. So that's another layer to this, that, just staying in the game and, talking about her not being comfortable, but at least nailing that question, that's a huge win for her, because that's another layer to this, that, she took another point away from corruption. And that was, or not corruption, the dungeon. And that is a huge, huge point takeaway for them, because they needed it. Being in last place, we talked about it last week. We talked about, what did the dungeon need? They needed opportunities. And this week, full of opportunities. And what did they do? They almost had another chance for some opportunity, and it let it slip away with that question. But with round 3, again, there's just some tough questions out there. And, if you got to feel that confidence, and like you say, talking with Tom, that's got to be a thing that you're either all in with Dagnino, or you gotta think, is she, he can be a little, you're either all in with Tom or you're not. And so maybe there needs to be a heel turn of sorts coming for the Rose. And I think we kind of got a little bit of that at the end, where she was feeling like maybe she needs to buckle down and, take this to the next level, Bogz. Because I think she's there, like you said, and John, you said it, like, and to take it back to sports, she's a raw talent. She's got the knowledge. She's just got to refine her craft in the game. She's just got to find her footing.
Yeah, they did ask her at the end, how do you feel about Dagnino? Is he the right manager for you in the right fraction? But yeah, she said she was. But I think personally, maybe having maybe that one-to-one experience with it, maybe someone else who can give her the time, because obviously he is a busy manager. He's got a few title lists, so maybe a different faction potentially might do a good. But yeah, good effort from her. But obviously Zipper and Kaiser ecstatic with that win. Calling out Kalinowski afterwards. Obviously he still needs to play, but I like the confidence. And yeah, that'll be an excellent match. So I knew as well. Obviously, the dungeon is stacked with Iacovetta guys, so corruption, so big win for them. So John, yeah, presume you're looking forward to Zipper's next match.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think Mark actually spoke really well on this at the end of the match, as he was kind of talking about like just because Emily had a rough showing in that match certainly does not mean that like she should be written off. And the greatest testament to that is Eric Zipper, a guy who previously had not had a great record in the inner geekdom, but no one's questioning about whether or not he belongs in the division now. Like, it's all just about finding your groove. I really vibed with that thing you were saying, Bogz, about like maybe if there is a manager that could give Emily more one-on-one time than Dagnino might be able to. Obviously, we don't know behind the scenes. Obviously, they were talking about the text chain. Emily was talking about how it's like a family. So obviously, I'm sure Dagnino is giving her some attention, but like there is maybe something to be said. But otherwise, like I definitely don't want folks to be like takeaway from this match to be ragging on Emily. Like I think that's not fair. I think it is, it's more fair to just say that like if anything, this match proves how Emily could become one of the greats because Zipper, a guy who had been ragged on, really came with it, really shone through, and like Christian said, making a strong argument for most improved player. Like the dude put on a show.
Definitely. Yeah, so good win for Zipper in the end. Obviously, he moves on to the next round. We'll face the winner of Greg Albert against Mike Kalinowski, which will be next week. So anyway, moving on to the next match, which was the big first semi-final in the Star Wars division, was against Andrew Dimalanta and Molly Damon. So Colin, maybe you want to take us through round one?
I mean, round one is the home run derby. It's just getting them, they're just laying them out, just throw them out there. They're knocking them out, and I'm just having a ball. Each time these guys answer a question, at least in round one, there's no way they're missing these questions.
Yeah.
In round one, you feel like at this point there is no way that it's going to. I just don't know what else can be done in round one in these. It's almost like, can we skip to, I don't know what we have to skip to in these Star Wars questions, but the drama is just, it's just so much. I just can't, it's so tense because you're just waiting, and we keep making this, this comparison, but it's like the beautiful game. It's like football. It's like soccer. You're waiting for that one goal. You could go 80 minutes without a goal, and then that one goal happens, and the whole place goes crazy. That's like a miss in this Star Wars division. When there's a miss in the Star Wars division, and that's all you're waiting for. And when these first rounds, it just feels like you're just getting comfortable. So that's for me, just feeling comfortable. And I'm feeling at this point that Molly has what it takes to, I'll say it again, go the distance.
That's a running theme, yeah. So obviously both went perfect in round one, up until the bonus question, which was obviously missed by Molly Damon. So yeah, what did you think of that, John? Was you shocked? Were you surprised?
I mean, I definitely wasn't surprised that up until that point, both were pitching a perfect game. Like both of them were really on it. Obviously, if you look at the Twitch chat while the matches were going, there were some folks, including one Ken Knapsack, who was not thrilled by the kinds of questions that were getting asked. But again, as someone that is personally not as familiar with Star Wars as either Dimalanta nor Damon, I was impressed nonetheless. I thought they were killing it. And I did really like that bonus question. Yeah. Like, I thought that was a tough one to try and and there was a similar question in the Ellison versus Oyama match. But that question of like how many on-screen Yoda appearances, like it's a tough one, man. Like it can be the thing that trips you up, and ultimately it was the thing that tripped up Molly Damon just a little bit. just enough to kind of get that first blood, that first edge over Damon for Dimalanta. I mean, it was the intense first match that we thought it was gonna be. So yeah, I dug that first round, man. It set an interesting tone for the events that would come after in that match, especially round 2, which we can get into all that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was probably my favorite question of the match, the bonus question, the Yoda question. Because I was trying to work it out myself, and I didn't think I actually got it in the 20 seconds. So I'd have personally asked for a repeat, but yeah, it was a tough one. But yeah, carry on, John. So tell us about round 2. What happened?
Round
First
2.
question.
Oh. Yeah. So yeah, Dimalanta got a Return of the Jedi, and that first question. What a gut punch. I think it was Pteridium, specifically the answer. There's a whole bit of hullabaloo. Now, I'm sure we all got different opinions, so I'll just lay out, personally, from my perspective as a fan, I don't have the best hearing, which is a little ironic considering how big these guys are. Real curse. I'm living in my own personal Twilight Zone, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the word Pteridium. And when I was watching the match, it sounded to me...
Isn't it Tidarium? It's shuttle Tidarium.
Yeah.
It's Tidarium. It's okay.
It can be any space word you want. The question is if it ended with an M or an N. Yeah. When I was listening in, it sounded like Dimalanta said it with an M. I thought he got the question right, but Christian couldn't tell. M and N sound very similar. I get it. And then when Dimalanta got asked specifically about that final letter, he did second guess himself. He spelled it with an N, which wound up being the incorrect answer, which then gave Molly an opportunity for a pretty big 2-point steal, which is, obviously a lot of folks had a lot to say about it. It was definitely very contentious. What I think is more interesting is not just to talk about that steal, but then also then thinking a little bit further ahead, how round 2 ended with the score tied. And we can get a little bit more into that, Bogz, but I'm sure both you and Colin have some opinions about how that call went. I'll just say I agreed with the call ultimately, but I totally understand why it was heated.
Before I give it to Colin, I pretty much agree with what you said. So I did hear the M in the end when it was live. I actually paused and rewound, and I was watching, obviously, on Twitch. I was on my phone. I put the phone to my ear, and I definitely heard the M. And I saw Mark was nodding along, and even Molly was nodding along. But obviously, Christian must have heard the N. So yeah, I did feel like it was. I don't know. I was a bit shocked that he just asked him to spell it like that. He obviously, he could not be good at spelling. He could be dyslexic. English might not be his first language for all we know. Obviously, I'm not making an excuse why he spelled it wrong, but for that reason, I do understand why the challenge was not upheld. But yeah, it was drama. Well, exactly what we tune in for, really. What do you think, Colin?
So, okay, some behind the scenes. I have a thing that it might be a production related thing. We are, spoiler alert, using the same recording software that the Schmoedown uses to record their software. Okay. Okay. So if Christian is hosting the call, right? So if Christian is hosting the call, if something happens with Christian's feed, that is reflected in the recording. That does not necessarily mean that the people who are on the call's audio is affected. So if Christian's audio was affected and could have had a little hiccup just in that one thing that he was trying to say, it would have shown up on the Twitch feed as whatever Christian heard, because it's the feed that Christian was pumping out. So if fans were, I personally heard the N. So when
I see.
So that was interesting. Is this like, what was this, that blue dress, gold dress thing from like 3 or 4 years ago that was online? So this is the Schmoedown's version of that now. And it seems like every week we have a new drama thing. And I agree with the handling of it, because what I don't agree with, personally, if I was the commissioner, I would have offered up a new question, because I feel like he should have taken a moment to realize it was unfair in the moment to just so quickly ask him to spelling bee it out and to write it out, because that's not the normality. That's not the normal way things go. So and I felt like that took Dimalanta, that rocked him for a second too. He was like, wait, what are you asking me to do? Spell it? Or I could say it again for you if you want me to say it again. But he didn't ask me to say it. He was like, spell it for me. It was like, okay. So it was kind of weird. So all things considered, I think it was an amalgam. It's a woozy. It's a fagoozy. It was just one little blip in the wind. I think, with everything we're all going through right now, I think technical difficulties can be an acceptable thing that sometimes happen. And I think, unfortunately, that's what happened. But it's not like it had too much sway on the end result.
Yeah, in the end, he did get a steal back in the same round. And then, John, carry on with round 2 if you like.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he got a steal. And, that's kind of a testament to how much Dimalanta wants it. You could hear Dagnino talking a little bit about it, where, Dimalanta was definitely fazed by it, as would anyone. But he didn't let it get to him. He stayed focused. He managed to rock the rest of his round 2, and then managed to get some, some steal action when Molly's round 2 came up. And, that kind of proves the testament of, obviously, Colin is right. Technical difficulties are kind of just inevitable for having a much more technical-based show, maybe in some ways, as opposed to the more easier to hear live aspect that the Schmoedown is used to. But I feel like everybody involved in the show itself did a really good job of rolling with it. And in some ways, it kind of made it even more intense that we wound up with a tied round 2. And it, we say it a lot, but this was honestly, truly anyone's game going into round 3. It was possible we could have been facing down a Joseph Scrimshaw at a Andrew Dimalanta situation all over again. I was definitely oh boy, really, what will happen next? It was intense, Bogz.
Yeah. So obviously he did get the 1 steal on the first question in round 2. And then Molly went perfect for the rest of the round. Then into round 3, they were equal. Going into round 3, the questions I thought were quite tough for Molly in particular. I thought because her 2-pointer is not mentioned in the movies. You had to know that from the general canon or watching the Clone Wars or other forms of Star Wars canon.
What question was that again?
That was where's Darth Maul from? Which planet is he from? Yeah.
Oh, no, wasn't that which question does he ask Kira to come to?
Was that the actual question? Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
okay.
right.
So it's what planet, and he does say, "Come to me" on Dathomir in the movie.
Yeah. Of course. Oh, sorry. I thought.
No. You're good because then it would have been.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. That's what.
Well, it is Dathomir. It is where he's from, technically. Now I'm thinking back to Jedi Fallen Order. Now I've got another thing going in my brain. Yeah. Now I want to go play that. Okay, continue.
Okay, now yeah. So you challenged me there. So
no, you're good. You're good.
That was upheld. Yeah. So obviously they both hit a 2-pointer. Then going into the 3-pointer, John. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, that if it didn't come down to one of these questions, it would have come down to one of the sudden death questions. So it really was, again, just waiting to see who got cut first. And I'll say this, getting it wrong on just a difference of best men versus best troops.
Yeah.
It still shows that a heck of a lot about the Star Wars universe. And I think we're all happy to see that the Emperor is using more inclusive language, being able to say, troops could be men or women or non-gender binary conforming folks. We love to see it. But it was a tough question. I talk a lot of times, since we are in the middle of a Star Wars tournament, that I truly just don't know that much about Star Wars. So I'm just floored every time. But this was really, I think, a match between 2 pros. And while, it didn't wind up being as close as Dimalanta versus Scrimshaw, just like that match, I think that, Molly Damon as the loser has nothing to hang her head about. This was still a solid match. And it just also happened to further cement how much Dimalanta wants to come back from his previous record in this division, and how like clearly he's visualizing the eyes on the prize, because now he's just waiting to see who he winds up going up against for the finals. Like it was a wild match, man.
Yeah, definitely. Tough 3-pointer. Obviously, they needed the exact line, which it wasn't. It was troops, not men. Extremely hard 5-pointer, I thought. For that. What do you think, Colin, of the 5-pointer?
You just gotta. There's a point in the knowledge where, and I think where everybody falls in line with these Star Wars questions is, it's do you know it?
Yeah,
I think that's kind of what we're noticing here. And like my blanket advice to every person who wants to go into the Star Wars division from here on out, and this is free advice, watch the movies with subtitles on. Because that would have saved 2 wins. That I think that would have been almost 2 wins this week would have been, different if people would, have known the exact wording of stuff from the movies. That's where we're getting with this stuff. This is how serious the Star Wars stuff is getting. And the 5-pointer is just another example of one of those questions where it's like, I didn't know it. And that's where it's like, I feel like if I don't know the question and somebody else does, if one of these guys, or, whoever knows the question, hats off. And so in the end, hats off to Dimalanta. I mean, just sticking it out through the round, through all 3, because in the first round, and I put something in our group chat earlier today, he misspelled one of the answers and they gave one of the answers. And to hear Christian say in the middle of the match and harp on how important every little detail is, and then to have a meme going around all week with him missing a letter, I'm just saying it was a little ironic, but in the end, it didn't matter because it was just 1 point. But
yeah, I get your point there. Exactly, they want the exact wording, don't they? What do you think, John?
Yeah, well, and part of me was curious about this because I didn't have time to review other matches just to kind of figure out the rules. But part of me wondered if that's why Christian made a call that he made later when Andrew Dimalanta was looking at a steal point for that multiple choice where Mark gave him the answers. And then Christian was like, no, you can also ask him the question again. I couldn't remember if that was true. Like, I couldn't remember if when you're looking at a steal, you only get the answers. But I think it kind of doesn't matter, again, because you have that question of, okay, absolute versus absolutes. Just in the technical format, trying to keep up with everything. Does it kind of even out? Does it ultimately matter whether it was absolute versus absolutes? Could there have been more challenges? Did there need to be any? Like, I think at the end of the day, regardless of the technical snafus, of the specifics of the minutia, which is what all of these matches come down to, you got 2 people who know Star Wars. And eventually it was just about, like Colin was saying, like, who's watched it with subtitles, who knows the actual just nitty gritty of the, like, exactly what it says in George Lucas's screenplay. It was a good match regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, regardless of the technicalities, we did have a winner, and they will face the winner of between Ace and Laura Kelly, which will be next week. So again, another great match which we'll come to towards the which we'll preview towards the end of the show. Going on to the following match, which is I was personally looking forward to the most. A bit of a grudge match here, kind of rematch as well. So yeah, Colin, Oyama, Ellison, talk to me.
Okay, I'm gonna start off first by saying these 2 dudes, and we talked about where we found the Schmoedown. I've watched it since season 2. These 2 guys were the first people that ever came into the Schmoedown that I was like, oh, that could be me if I gave as many F's and S's as those guys do. Because you look at them and you're like, oh, those are just normal dudes. Yeah. That dude just put some glasses on. And he's like, oh, let's go. Like, let's roll. Let's answer some questions. And then you go find them in the fan leagues, and you see how passionate they are and how good they are. Just how good these guys are. And these were Christian's first kind of, incubators. Christian kind of brings these guys in and they blow up. Yeah. They're both champions. They are both former champions. That's what we're dealing with. On a Friday afternoon, the Schmoedown is giving you an inner geekdom first round match between two former champions, and we got an all-timer of a match, folks. The first round, perfect games all around. We're not going to sugarcoat. Perfect games all around, and there wasn't even a question about whether or not they were going to be perfect games. Those guys were so confident answering every one of those questions, from Jennifer Connelly in The Rocketeer to the Phantasm, it being the villain of the Batman animated movie from the mid-90s. These guys are on fire, and at this point, Bogz, I'm feeling like this could go much like the Dimalanta Scrimshaw match, which is now, I feel like, going to be the comparison of just neck and neck matches for, you know, the foreseeable future. And that's what this one had written all over it for round one.
Definitely. Exactly like you said, two champions, two youthful guys as well. I think they're the two youngest champions we've ever had. Just going at it head to head, seemed to be kind of had a good rapport with each other as well. Thoughts round one, John?
I mean, to quote a great Inner Geekdom movie, and the movie I watched during my quarantine birthday, Into the Spider-Verse, anyone can wear the mask. You really saw, I mean, you've seen both of these dudes go at it before. These are two guys that really love the Schmoedown. They love the game. They were, you know, grinding during the fan leagues, and that's what brought them up to the majors, and they've just cemented why they deserve to be there and why so many other fan league folks that have since come up deserve to be in the conversation too. It was an intense match. Like I teased earlier with the Dimalanta versus Damon match. Again, this question of like, how many appearances did Loki have in the MCU? That's a wild question to think about. I got it wrong. Part of that is maybe because I should have had a whiteboard. I wish I had Dagnino in my corner telling me like, give the kid a whiteboard. Come on. But you know, I mean, like it was a tough question. And it just goes to prove that these guys, not only do they love the game, they also love geeky movies. And that's what you like to see when you're a fan, you know, like me, a fan of the Schmoedown and a fan of geeky movies. You like to see people that like the same stuff that you do. It's always a fun time, Bogz.
Yeah, definitely. It was actually nice to see Shannon as well. We've not really seen her too much over the last kind of week or two. But obviously she's got some big players in the Geekdom division. So some exciting times with corruption anyway. Well, yeah, round two. Talk to me, Colin.
Round two, you see Chance roll Middle Earth, and Middle Earth has been the it's been the category over the last 3 weeks that I look at and I'm like, boy, do I need to watch these movies again. And we talk about it. It's 6 movies.
Yep.
It's 6 movies. Now, granted, each one of those movies is the size of 2.5 movies, the normal studio film. So, okay. So we're looking at about, was it 9? It's about 18 hours of stuff. Okay. That's a good bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
This is just some the questions now. It's like, it's not necessarily nitty gritty, but I feel like some of these people have probably read the books before. I feel like that's where we're at. We're getting a comfortability with Middle Earth where you're finding like, oh, just how much do you love the Shire? And Chance was like, I'm here. I got it. And besides the 1 point steal for Paul, which ended up coming back later for Chance.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I thought Chance played a great round 2. It's one of the better round 2s we've seen in the tournament in terms of not just losing points off the steal, but then coming back and getting that 2-pointer was just so big for his momentum and his confidence. You could tell he's fired up. And Chance is one of those guys. He's got that. He's got that outlaw passion. You know, that outlaw energy is just raw. You know, he likes to keep it cool. He likes to try to be cool with the glasses, man. But when he gets one right, he's riled up. Chance will give you that fist bump, and he's ready to go. And rolling into Paul spins opponent's choice. Well, first Paul spins Middle Earth, and then Paul spins opponent's choice. And going into Star Wars, you could tell that is Chance angling at a run at Star Wars, because the way that him and Shannon were talking in the middle, he's like, we've been practicing this. And I was like, oh, is he going to go Star Wars? I kind of like had this thought about my head, like, oh, he might go Star Wars here. Rolls Star Wars, and boom, steals 2 points off of Paul Oyama. At the end of this, it's 21-16 going into round 3, Bogz. I mean, at this point, you're like, where is this going?
I was when they said you'd be training with Laura as well. 2 chance. I thought, oh, okay, that's why. I see. Good tactics used there. Any thoughts on round 2, John? Before we move on.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just to echo what Colin was saying, like it's about momentum, seeing where everything goes. During that round 2, at first I thought, okay, well, now it's tipped over. We've reached that point where it tips over into Oyama's favor because he got that Conan steal. And obviously Middle Earth is a rough category. But then when Chance manages to get opponent's choice, I was like, all right, it's especially good now that Oyama got that steal because that just puts him in a better starting position. But then just to see how well Chance manages to do with getting in those pretty crucial steals with both the Kitster steal and then the big Bail Organa steal. And then also just like the fact that he can't help but just be like, oh, Paul knows this now. And he's so mad that he didn't get it in the moment. Like that kind of energy can be really rough. Yeah, man. I mean, it's again that question of momentum. Do you let going down any point during the match get you down? Chance didn't let it didn't let him phase him. And as we all know, if Star Wars Trooper sets their gun to phase, it goes yellow?
No.
I just watched the match 2 minutes ago. How did I already forget? Guys, I gotta go.
That Bail Organa question was my favorite actually because that's also the last scene in Revenge of the Sith where obviously we've had that question before, right? So I thought, oh, okay, so it's coming back to get you again. So I to be honest, I knew you want to get that, John, because obviously you've not seen it. So yeah, round 3, Colin, talk to us.
Yeah, also shout out to that question and shout out to the question writers for milking 2 questions out of like 3 seconds of film. Yeah. Great job to the question writers these past couple weeks. So round 3, see Paul easily nails the 2-pointer. Rubius Hagrid is the new Care Magical Creatures teacher in Prisoner of Azkaban, and then nailing Lee Pace for Thranduil as the Elven King in the Hobbits, and then Chance. I love this question for Chance because my girlfriend looks over at me and she's like, "Who said that?" And of course, I know what it's like to lose, to feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail nonetheless. I was like, "Oh, how do you not know this? This is the dude." And then he holds up the fist, and she's like, "Oh, yeah." It's like, "Oh, awesome. All right, cool." So Thanos rolling in, and you feel like he's got it. Like he's feeling the momentum at this point because he's got like once you nail that either the 2 or the 3, because one of them's irrelevant. He knows one of these questions is a throwaway. If he nails that 5, the 3 doesn't matter. I have to hit my 5-pointer. Is that he knows, like he's like, all right, I'm playing this out. He nails the 2. He's comfortable. He can relax on that 3-pointer. Then setting up Paul on the 5-pointer for what type of wedgie do the bullies give Freddie Freeman that he later gives back to them in Shazam? Yeah, that is one of the wow. I mean, truly, which is funny because I said atomic wedgie. Yeah, and that's what Paul said. I was like, oh, he nailed it. I was like, oh, I got one right. I got a 5-pointer right. Oh my gosh. Wrong. It's the suitcase wedgie, which that should be illegal. No one should. If you've ever been suitcase wedgie, please go find a lawyer. That's not nice. Those people should, pay for that. Bogz, have you ever gotten a suitcase wedgie? And if not, like, did you know this question?
No, I had no idea. So, but as soon as they gave the answer, I thought, oh, it is. Yeah. Because I didn't remember what type of who's going to know that, right? What type of wedgie? But as soon as they said the answer, I thought, oh, because they do it a few times, don't they, in the movie? So I did remember when that came out. But yeah, did you know it, John?
Listen, I have not seen any of the Star Wars prequels. I have not seen any of the Hobbit trilogy. I have seen Shazam. I liked Shazam. And I had no friggin' clue about that wedgie question. I also guessed atomic wedgie sitting around playing at home. And Colin is right. If anyone has ever given you, viewer, a suitcase wedgie, definitely find a lawyer because whoever did that, I'm pretty sure broke the Geneva Conventions. I'm pretty sure it has something. Yeah, I think that's got to be Article 8. That's got to be pretty early in there. It's war crimes out here.
It's
but
literally right next to tear gas.
Of course. Oh boy, but yeah, I mean, it's I say it all the time. It's that friggin' minutia of the inner geekdom and Star Wars, where like you can't just like these films. You gotta know them inside and out, word for word. It is intense, and I mean, I really didn't know who was gonna come out of this the victor. It really could have come up at any moment. So to lose on like that big of a question, I mean, that must have just been a suitcase wedgie to the heart for Oyama and Winston. You hate to see it, but I mean, hats off to Chance. I'll showcase my bald head in honor of Chance.
Yeah, good win for Chance. He obviously progresses in that round of the tournament. He will now face the winner of Ben Goddard and Robert Parker, who obviously Chance was calling him out, saying, "Come on, let's go!" So awesome match to look forward to. So there are all the matches that has happened. So we're going to quickly try and cover all the news that has occurred as well. Lots to discuss. So firstly, we're going to start with the singles tournament and any potential title matches and things like that. So obviously, Dan Murrell is the current singles champion. So there will be a match to be decided upon his mandatory challenger, which will be between John Rocha and big time Ethan Irwin. Okay, so that winner will face Dan Murrell. The winner of that match, obviously the winner of whoever is the titleist between them three, will face the winner of Andrew Guy and the killer Mike Kalinowski, who will also face the winner of them two will face the boss Ben Bateman. Okay, so that will be the second mandatory, if that makes sense. So you've got one mandatory and you've got a second mandatory. So Colin, what are you thinking? There's all kinds of stuff going off here.
Oh boy, that's so much. That's
like a
so
top five little tournament going on.
Oh my gosh, this is the Champions League.
Yeah,
this is it. This is the best of the best. This is the only thing that would make this better is if Christian came down off the desk and threw down with him. That is the only thing that could make this better. Seriously, because this is Title Town. This is Throwdown. This is my brain's exploding at the possibilities of all these matches. It gives you the type of sense that we've watched singles matches before where they're usually one-sided if they're not a title match, and they're over the past couple they tend to be a little not too crazy dramatic, and when they are, they're with crazy contenders that we usually see later on contending for titles. And to see guys like this for this stretch go against each other, it's going to do nothing but inspire everybody who's not playing. And that's what I want. I want everyone who's not playing right now to watch where you have to be, because that's what these guys set. These guys set the tone for the league. These are the thoroughbreds, and this is the Kentucky Derby, and we got to let them run, Bogz. We just got to let them run.
Yeah, man, well said. So not only is that, so we've also, after these mandatory matches are decided, we also have a 36-person tournament. 32 people go straight in, and we're going to have 4 playing matches. The Rocha Irwin match will be a pay-per-view event with an undercard as well. So this is stacked with I can't wait, so much to look forward to in this division. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to finally cut back to singles as a division after a long time of just playing with these inner geekdom matches. 36-person tournament. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but you guys are, of course, also big-time movie trivia Schmoedown fans like me. That's why we're all here. So I'm sure that you guys have also been playing the game of all right, if I was the manager of each individual faction, which of my 3 players would I be putting in for each of it's been crazy to think about. It's also been a nice way to kind of like examine who all is in all of the different factions at this point, because it is kind of nice to see like, oh yeah, who is in this faction? Who does have like a, or like not just who has a chance at winning a belt, but then also like who, if given the opportunity to enter into a tournament, could prove themselves like worthy of a belt, because I think that's one of the most fun elements of a tournament. Yeah, I mean, tournaments to me, like they're the basis of like the most exciting moments, I think, sometimes of any given league, of any given sport or competition. So I'm really excited to see what the matchups are for this tournament, and then what we wind up getting. I think that'll be super fun. And then, yeah, of course, that you know, that singles belt, just chain of events. I mean, like, it's a lot of great players. Also, if you're Tommy Dagnino, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself, because 3 of the 6 people are your own as well. Exactly. I think it's going to be interesting to see how everything shakes out. I don't know what your thoughts are, Bogz, but as far as trying to picture who can possibly come out on top of all of these matches.
Yeah, it's particularly with the Finstock Exchange as well. Who are they going to put in that tournament? I mean, they've got so many options. It's not also as well, not necessarily for some managers and factions about winning. It's about getting points. You know, who can get a win here or there. You know, who you're going to put in that can potentially, you know, pick up some points, potentially pick up some knockouts, because you may be playing against rookies and people with kind of lesser records making a debut, that kind of thing. So there's a lot to think about there. Also, this the winner of that tournament will face the winner or whoever has the belt at the time in the Schmoedown Spectacular in December, whether that's filmed at a live event or digitally. I mean, we'll see. But so much to look forward to in that singles division. Same going into the Inner Geekdom division, where Chandru will face Smets for the title. Again, that's going to be a pay-per-view event with an undercard. Colin, what are you thinking?
Those two, like, it inspire me to watch movies in a different way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I watch Inner Geekdom stuff, I feel like I'm retaining. I feel like I got this. I feel like I feel like I'm learning. But what these guys have turned this division into, specifically, Chandru and Smets, it's truly taken the Inner Geekdom. It's my favorite division. Singles, double, like Inner Geekdom is my favorite division to watch, because it's nitty gritty. It just as nitty gritty as Star Wars is, but like Star Wars is more for the intensity. You know, the questions are, I know I'm gonna miss some of those Star Wars questions, even though I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt. Like, you know, there's just some Star Wars stuff you're just not gonna know unless you study this stuff like they study this stuff. But there's Inner Geekdom days where I can miss like 3 questions on an Inner Geekdom match. I'm like, oh wow, this feels nice. But you know, it's just that added bit. And with these two guys, it's just specifically Smets, the way he's come through and just kind of truly embraced the whole idea of the Schmoedown, truly coming up with that character and in molding it, and over the course of going to live events, on multiple live events, molding himself into this guy who is now feared. I mean, this dude is feared. If you have to play Smets, you do. Like, this dude is now literally the guy that wrote the book on studying. And so, like, how are we gonna? I mean, it's just gonna be fantastic. And if anybody can beat him, it's Chandru. So that's probably my most anticipated match that's been announced so far.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna agree. Alongside Rocha and Owen as well.
Yeah, it's 1A, 1B, 1A, 1B.
Yeah. Alongside that, because I believe the winner of this Inner Geekdom tournament will obviously play the winner of that current title holder as well. John, what are you thinking about this whole Inner Geekdom situation?
I mean, you know, it's hard to picture anyone beating Smets, which is interesting because there's been a match where Kevin Smets was beat. So to have seen the guy take a loss and still say it's near impossible to picture him taking a loss is a pretty incredible testament to just how much Kevin Smets wanted to get where he is currently at. Chandru, though, is also just a really fun guy. I love him. I love him to death. I loved him as a face. I love him as the whatever kind of, heel face hybrid he's transformed into, whatever he got turned into in the lab. I'm digging it, and also on top of just being a fun character, for sure also knows his stuff. I don't want to downplay that element of him either. Like, he definitely is an entertaining guy, as is Smets, just, in a different way. So it's going to be really interesting to watch that. Like you guys were saying, it's also very interesting to picture the matches that might come out of the singles. Kind of six-way is the best way to refer to it technically.
The Battle Royale.
Everyone involved. Battle Royale, for sure. Like, there's part of me that's just like, I want to see another Guy versus Bateman match, but then I'm like, but it would also be fun to see Kalinowski and Bateman go up against each other again, because they went up against each other during the last singles tournament. So it's just like, that kind of idea of like, which rematch do we want? But also like some of the action with the team's belt as well. Like, looking at those 2 matches they would be, some of what I've been seeing there also looks pretty interesting. I don't know what your thoughts were on that, Bogz.
Yeah. So with regards to the teams, so what's going to happen here is, so we're going to have the title match between the Corruption against the Founding Fathers. Obviously, that'll be another rematch. The winner of that will face whoever the Pride, whoever wins from the Pride and Shazam. The winner of that will play Who's the Boss. Okay. My thought on this is, though, Shazam lost to the Founding Fathers in Schmoedown Spectacular in December. I think personally that they should have played. The Pride should have played Who's the Boss, and then met Shazam in the kind of the next match after that, because they've earned the right, because they've lost they've just recently lost a title match. So I don't know what your thoughts are, John, about that.
That's a very interesting question, man. Yeah, I mean, sometimes the logistics of like what rubber matches are, warranted, I guess, when who wins or loses what, how recently. I mean, I do think it's interesting that Who's the Boss is kind of the team that's like set in stone to be able to have that number 1 contenders match. I do find that interesting, but I could also imagine Shazam just being the type of team that's like, no, we want to go through the ringer on this, like Bibiani, of course, famous for the still standing during the free-for-all, but then also like as long as we're talking about hungry players like Kevin Smets, I really think that one of the hungriest players active in singles/teams right now is Brendan Meyer. Like, that guy really came through, considering his rookie season was just last season and where he's at now. Like, I could kind of imagine like Bibiani and Brendan Meyer just sitting together going like, no, let's face the Pride. Let's do it, buddy. And saying it just like that too. So yeah, I mean, I mean, at this point, I kind of just am afraid of watching Founding Fathers versus Corruption, because we've seen Founding Fathers versus Corruption so many times, and it always comes down to just the smallest thing. So it'll be just fascinating to see which one of them comes up this time. But yeah, the fact that the Pride is involved in potentially winning a belt is interesting. I don't know what your thoughts on this were, Bogz, but that was kind of something where I struggled with it for a little bit, where I was like, well, they're only 2-0 and have obviously that little bit of a kerfuffle with the Butcher Boys. But at the same time, considering that the Den is a faction that is mostly comprised of rookies or folks that haven't been like cemented champions, to see them so ahead in the standings, I was kind of like, yeah, let's give Grace and Kate some love for their management. Yeah, what were your thoughts on this, Bogz? How do you think the Pride factors into all this?
Yeah, I think you just covered it. I think they want to give them a shot. They are 2-0. I believe because it's teams. The team kind of situation needs to be played in a live situation, and if the team players aren't both available to travel, both aren't available to play together, then it's going to be unrealistic. So I think them 2 competitors specifically are available to play. Also, I think that was a good shout as well that Shazam maybe want to play. Maybe because of ring rust, potentially they don't want to go into a Who's a Boss match without playing another match. yeah, Colin, what do you think about this whole team situation? Potentially a live event as well. So yeah, what do you think of the whole Shazam as well? Like not being the number one contender, having to play that play-in match in effect.
I mean, that's kind of where, it's another thing we got to chalk up to the current circumstances, that some stuff's just not going to, be the way it usually goes. But I feel like Shazam is in a prime position to be the sharpest tool to go up against Who's the Boss. Because I feel like Who's the Boss is, one of the top 2.5 teams. I mean, I probably couldn't, you'd have a hard time finding 3, and they're just going up. Shazam just poses such a strange challenge, because you got, I just imagine every single time the kid rolling up to him and be like, Mr. Beast, would you like to play in this match? I think we could actually do pretty well playing in this match. And I think you nailed it on the head. I think that they're going to want to shake some of that rust off. I think Who's the Boss deserves that respect. So if they end up going again, if that's the way the cards play out, you wouldn't want to go up against them having just sat in your house and watched, matches for the last however many months it is before that match actually happens. Because the teams thing is definitely, I hadn't even thought of the complexity of teams in the middle of all this. That's one thing I hadn't even given a thought, because we've just been in the middle of these singles, Inner Geekdom, and Star Wars matches. But the fact that those can't be done until live, I look forward to the Founding Fathers and Corruption. It's just kind of it's becoming one of the this goes back to top 10 days, top 10 versus the Patriots, goes back to those matches, and it just seems like Mr. the Outlaw always seems to find his way into these matches that the whole world just wants to get a piece of. And that's that and the Inner Geekdom match are definitely up there for me as most anticipated going forward, Bogz.
Yeah. So talking about a bit of unfortunate news as well, is that there'll be no free-for-all this year, for obvious reasons, too hard to do digitally. So yeah, that's been kind of ruled out by Christian. So fortunately, we're not going to have that. But yeah, moving on to the matches next week. So we are going to see the second semi-final between Ace Guerrero and Laura Kelly, which obviously will the winner of that will face Andrew Dimalanta in the final of the tournament. We're also going to have Ben Goddard against Robert Parker, which is obviously big kind of pressure on Parker, and the return finally of the killer Kalinowski, who's a personal favorite of mine in the Inner Geekdom division. I'm not going to lie, because just to give you a bit of I don't need to justify it, but a bit of backstory is that obviously in the UK, matches come in, they kind of premiere at 10, 11, 12 p.m. in like a spectacular event. Sometimes they're 2-parters, sometimes they're 3-4 hours long, and you can't really wait for the next day. Obviously, you have to avoid Twitter, YouTube, social media, etc. You kind of have to watch it. And at the end, if the main event is someone like Kalinowski, where you're getting drama kind of in the promos, you're getting a great match, you're getting him calling, drama in the interview afterwards. It's just pure entertainment, So I personally am looking forward to his return, big time. So yeah, what about you, John? What are you looking forward to next week? Obviously, a lot to look forward to, but yeah, is there anything in particular you're looking forward to?
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, like you're saying, you don't need to justify who your favorites are. Ethan Irwin's one of my favorites, and that's because I met him in person once at a holiday party. We all have our reasons for loving who we love. As far as, the matches that I'm looking forward to the most, I would say for me, it's Ben Goddard versus Robert Parker. I was talking a little bit about this a couple weeks back now, but I think Ben Goddard versus Robert Parker might be the battleground for Rookie of the Year this year. Mm-hmm. Like, if you look at what Ben Goddard has been able to do, and even looking at what he was able to do before knowing that he now will also be in contention for the team's belt already, like, that guy has really been on top of it since coming into the game. And especially for me, as someone who didn't really know his whole deal, going into it. And I was like, okay, is this deal just that he owns the jacket from Drive? And then to see how much he actually knows and go like, oh no, he's he knows movies and he's got this, and I should put a little bit of respect on his name. That was crazy. And then, of course, Robert Parker. Few folks have been coming into this league as wildly hyped as Robert Parker. And, obviously his match against Ace was good, but, if you think about it, so was Kevin Smets's match against David Moore, where he again put on a knockout show. But when you put someone like Smets, who's largely going up against, folks with ring rust or folks who are also new to the game, against, a person like Kalinowski, and it's really like heads button, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's true of Robert Parker, who has a win against, Fan Leagues folks and Ace who didn't have a great initial showing. But now that Parker's going up against someone like Ben Goddard, who has proven he can play this game in 3 different divisions, that to me is the match that I'm the most excited for.
Yeah, good point. Colin, what are you looking forward to the most and anticipating the most next week?
I am on the Ace train.
Good
It took a second, because last week I was on the fence, because I love Ken and Ace for different reasons. When I watched Jedi Council when it was on, Ken kind of felt like Star Wars internet uncle, and Ace kind of felt like Star Wars internet cuz. So when you go hang out with your cousin, like the cool uncle and cousin that you like them both, and you talk to all the time. And unfortunately, I now got to ride with my cousin. So Ace, I would really just love to see. I feel like Ace taking this all the way through, and if he can win, I see the joy on his face, and that is something I think would be amazing to see. The dude who was the intern for the Schmoes go all the way up and be the most, not the most successful intern. JTE is still the most successful intern to compete in the Schmoedown, because he's the only intern champion. But for Ace to be the second intern champion, I think that would be pretty impressive. And so for me, Laura Kelly is going to be one of like the all I saw this week in the Schmoedown group was Shannon in there saying, "Oh, I know who would have known that question," dropping a gif of Shannon igniting a red lightsaber, and you're like, "Oh yeah, she definitely would have." And so this, again, like we keep saying, the Star Wars division has yet to disappoint. It's going to be fantastic, and I just know what I'm gonna get. It's consistent. It's consistently amazing, and it's not gonna let me down. So it's got to be Star Wars all the way.
Yeah. So we've each get 3 different opinions. There are 3 different divisions. But yeah, just on the back of the Ace thing, like Laura Kelly is so good. Like I'm a bit hesitant, but he, in terms of picking Ace, but he has proved us kind of everyone wrong again and again. So I am backing him as well. That was an excellent shot. I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, in terms of the league as well, just in terms of any changes, any standings, not massive amount of changes after these matches. Obviously, the Finstock Exchange did get a win, so they've opened up that gap. In terms of the bottom, there has been obviously a few changes where we've seen Corruption win and the Dungeon, so they've kind of moved off bottom place, and these were suspects have dropped to the bottom place. And I do worry for them as well, because they haven't got any players left in the tournaments. The next player who's playing is Ethan Irwin. Obviously, there's no scheduled date for that John Rocha match yet, but I am a bit worried for him. I don't know what you think, John. What's the kind of league standing?
Yeah, I mean, as far as just the league standings generally, Finstock Exchange is just kind of further cementing their position. Meanwhile, you got Dungeon and Corruption proving that, while they haven't been doing great so far this season, they do have this, inner geekdom Star Wars world on lock. Yeah. Now they're kind of getting the chance. You brought up Usual Suspects, man, and it leads me to kind of one of my biggest takeaways from what we've been seeing so far as of late. Sam Levine seems like a lovely guy, and I have nothing bad to say about the dude personally. I want to make that very clear before I make my next statement, which is I think Sam may have put too many of his eggs into the Drew McWeeny basket when he was making his draft. And I don't know if what his recent moves have done other than maybe just take all of those eggs and now put them in the Ethan Irwin basket. You hear him talk a little bit about like, oh yeah, our strengths are definitely in singles and teams. And I'm like, yeah, no, Ethan is in those divisions and he's good. But at the same time, you had Molly Damon. You had a strength in the Star Wars division. And, he did say that, he had been watching some Star Wars matches up top during that Damon versus Dimalanta match. And I do want to give him credit for that. Like, I hear that and I go, okay, yeah, he's trying to, like, stay up to date and, like, be able to be a resource to his players. But I do kind of wonder, like, maybe, I get that, Sam wanted to help out his buddy. Obviously, there's some awkward tension after Above the Line split and Sam retired. And that was, of course, the big lead into the family being a team. But I don't know, man. I think Sam, as a manager, might just be too focused on that one player. What do you think, Bogz?
Yeah, it's an excellent point, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, they're saying that they're kind of concentrating on singles, but I'm not really seeing it. Obviously, you've got Guy and Irwin, but if they lose, because they're in really tough matches, as we said, like I can't really see too many points being picked up there. Colin, what do you think of the whole league standing situation?
Right now, it's just hard to see anyone catching the exchange. It's each week. I mean, even with Emily losing it and saving that extra point and just getting TKO as opposed to the knockout for Zipper, it's hard to look at everyone else and see like where are these points going to come from? If you're 7, it's hard even for 9 to 7. It's hard to look at anyone through 4 to 9 and be like, who is what avenue is there for you to get up to 25? And is Finstock is the exchange just going to suddenly start losing? I mean, I don't think so. What avenues do they have to lose? Dimalanta could lose the Star Wars match. Let's see. We got an Inner Geekdom. Right. We got Barbarian and singles. You got Rocha. You got everybody else. Like it just they have tons of more opportunities for points. Like we get to the end of this, like to bring it back to the Premier League, this could be like Liverpool or Manchester City the last couple of years, where the difference in points at the top of the table is just insurmountable. And that's what I keep seeing. Like even with Swag winning, it's like you feel like Swag's gaining points each week, but it's like, well, it doesn't matter if they keep winning, and we can't do anything to stop them from winning unless Swag plays the exchange every week. So I mean, I'm feeling like it's the Finstock right now. I feel like the league is the Finstock exchanges to lose, and I'm excited to see the challenges that the rest of the league puts forward to slow down that rise to the top.
Yeah, what I'm most looking forward to is how many points Corruption and the Dungeon can pick up and what their kind of impact will be on the league. As opposed to, I think the Finstock are a bit too much in front, but can the Dungeon and Corruption catch up with the Den and catch up with the Swag as well? Because I think they can. Whether they will or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, what do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of gets back to both Laura Kelly versus Ace Cabrera and Ben Goddard versus Robert Parker. Like, that's going to be huge. Right now, Swag is the closest to playing Finstock, but now with both of their Inner Geekdom players out, if they lose to Corruption, they're in trouble. If Laura Kelly is able to beat Ace Cabrera and continue that momentum for Corruption, is like, okay, great. Will Chance, Mike, and Laura combined be able to do enough? But or will Laura wind up losing to Dimalanta, as some are thinking she might, and then killing the momentum for Corruption? And then with Ben Goddard, again, like the Den, right now that's Ben Goddard is their only player left in both the Inner Geekdom and Star Wars tournaments. They're number 3. If they lose to Robert Parker, will then the Dungeon be able to rack up those points? Because again, considering that the Dungeon has right now a very hungry Eric Zipper and this, child protege, hypothetically Robert Parker, it really puts, there's so much added pressure on all of the players now with this team, division manager situation. Like, I think the factions this year, I was skeptical going into it at first. I won't lie, but man, there really is now so much added value on each individual match. It is crazy, Bogz.
Yeah, massive week next week. So yeah, lots to. Obviously, we've been through a lot this week. We reviewed a lot. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. Please like this video, share, give us feedback. So yeah, just Colin, any final thoughts and anything you want to plug?
Just another great week. I'm now looking forward each week to hanging out with my guys and talking about the Schmoedown, and it's just always fun. So, you know, find me down here at the name, nicely written down here. Thanks again for the graphics, guys. And yeah, thanks for watching.
John?
Yeah, you can follow me at John Barr Tweets on Twitter and Instagram. You can check me out on YouTube, John Barr. I'm one of the John Bars that exists on there. But yeah, man, just come in next week because we are going to have some stuff to talk about. Let me tell you, without knowing how any of these matches go, I'm sure I'm going to have too much to say, quite frankly, about each individual match. I'm kind of sick of just picturing myself talking about it. But doggone it, am I excited to do it with Colin and you, Bogz.
Yeah, man, look forward to it so much. So big week next week. So hopefully see you all again. I've been your host, I'm Bogz. I'm on Twitter at Bogz and Instagram at ABBogz. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. It's been really fun. Again, please like, comment, share the video. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Ooh, the symmetry. Not quite with Bogz, but you and me, Colin.